This is Heliox, where evidence meets empathy. Independent, moderated, timely, deep, gentle, clinical, global, and community conversations about things that matter. Breathe easy, we go deep and lightly surface the big ideas. Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that maybe you haven't thought about before.
Yeah.
And that is the mental health of new fathers.
Okay.
So we all know about postpartum depression in mothers' PPD.
Right.
But we have a study here from the Journal of Affective Disorders, and it found that 1 in 10 new dads experience PPD.
Wow.
That's a big number.
That is
It's way more common than I think a lot of people think.
Right.
And so we're going to be taking a deep dive into that today.
Okay.
We have that study, and we also have an article from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that really kind of gets into all of this.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be busting some myths and hopefully gaining a new understanding of this often overlooked aspect of fatherhood.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I think we're learning so much more about the biological side of this.
Okay.
Really challenging some of these long-held assumptions.
So the Atlanta Journal-Constitution article mentions that men experience hormonal shifts too after childbirth.
Yes.
Their testosterone levels actually drop.
Right.
So it's not just a female thing.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about a slight dip here.
Okay.
This is a significant drop in testosterone.
Wow.
Which can have a direct impact on mood, on sleep, on energy levels. So if you think about the kinds of hormonal shifts that mothers go through,
right?
We're seeing that there's this parallel here.
Yeah.
Highlighting that there is this biological basis for PPD in fathers as well.
It's not just in their heads, as some people might say.
Exactly. And that is crucial, I think, to understanding the struggles that new fathers face.
And both the study and the article talk about all these different risk factors,
Right.
Having a history of mental health challenges, financial stress.
Yeah.
I mean, who isn't stressed about money with a new baby?
For sure.
Sleep deprivation, obviously.
Of course.
And then all the relationship changes that come with having a tiny human taking over your life.
Right. And you know what? If we think about it more broadly, just the idea of new parenthood, regardless of gender,
Yeah.
it's just this time of immense change
Yeah.
and adjustment and new pressures and a whole new set of responsibilities.
For sure.
So it's really natural that mental health could be affected.
Totally. But here's the thing, and this is where it kind of gets heartbreaking.
Okay.
The Atlanta Journal-Constitution article points out that a lot of dads suffer in silence because of that pressure to be strong and to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, this is where societal expectations really collide with the need to just acknowledge and address mental health.
The article even quotes a psychologist, Renee Goff,
Okay.
says, society often expects men to just get over it, suck it up, or be a man.
Wow.
And it's so damaging because it prevents men from getting the help that they need.
And what's interesting, too, is that, men might not experience PPD in the same way that women do.
Oh, that's a good point. What does it look like for dads then?
Well, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution highlights this difference. Instead of sadness being the main symptom for fathers, it might be increased irritability, emotional withdrawal,
Okay.
difficulty bonding with their baby.
Which, if you think about it, kind of fits into that tough guy stereotype in a messed up way.
Right. It's almost like a socially acceptable mask for what they're dealing with.
Right.
And unfortunately, some men might even cope in unhealthy ways, like turning to substance use or just burying themselves in work. Again, it's about avoiding those feelings that aren't seen as manly.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is. But, there is some good news in all of this.
Okay. I need some good news.
The Journal of Affective Disorders study found that having good mental health practices before the baby is born
Okay.
can significantly protect against PPD in fathers.
So it's not just about reacting to problems when they come up,
Right.
but actually building that mental resilience beforehand.
Exactly.
I love that.
And you know what? For every measurable increase in a father's pre-birth well-being, their risk of moderate to severe depression dropped by 10%.
10%. Wow, that's pretty motivating.
It is.
So what does this well-being actually look like? What can dads do to prepare themselves?
That's a great question. And that's what's really interesting about this study. It's not just one magic bullet.
Okay.
It's this multifaceted approach
Okay.
that we're going to unpack in our next segment.
All right. Stay tuned because we are going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of how dads can proactively protect their mental health before their little one arrives.
Thank you for being curious and subscribing. following, liking, rating, and reviewing our podcast episodes. Your support really helps build a vibrant Heliox community. Back to Heliox, where evidence meets empathy.
Okay, so we're back. And we're really going to kind of dig into like how dads can actually prepare themselves, for these mental challenges.
Yeah.
You were saying that the Journal of Affective Disorders study kind of suggested this multifaceted approach to pre-birth well-being.
It does. It's not just about, one thing.
Okay.
It's about addressing these multiple aspects of a father's life.
Okay.
So his physical health relationships, emotional well-being all play a part here.
So let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
What kind of specific things are we talking about?
So first and foremost, prioritizing their physical health.
Okay.
We're talking about things like, regular exercise, a balanced diet. And I know this one can be hard even before the baby comes.
Yeah.
Getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
It seems so simple, but it really lays that foundation for mental resilience.
Right. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And then, of course, fostering strong relationships.
Yeah. Okay.
This is about, open communication with their partner, seeking support from, family and friends.
Yeah.
And even building those connections with other expectant dads.
Okay.
That network is so important, especially when things get tough.
Yeah, I can see how it could feel really isolating.
Right.
Otherwise, like you're the only one going through it.
Yeah. And then there's the emotional well-being piece.
Okay.
Developing healthy coping mechanisms for stress.
Right.
So this could be anything from mindfulness techniques like meditation to journaling, or even seeking professional support if needed.
So it's about kind of giving dads this toolkit, I guess, to navigate all the ups and downs of fatherhood, not just expecting them to figure it all out on their own.
Exactly. And what's really great is that all of these practices, they're not just about preventing PPD.
Okay.
They actually benefit a father's overall well-being.
Yeah.
And ultimately that makes them a better partner and a better parent.
Right. And this is where I think it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Because the study actually suggests integrating these well-being practices into prenatal care.
I know, it's such a forward-thinking concept.
Right.
Instead of just focusing on the physical health of the mother and baby,
right,
we're really thinking about, the mental health of the whole family unit.
It's like a holistic approach to family care.
Exactly. Imagine if, alongside all of the usual appointments and checkups,
right,
expectant parents also receive, resources and support
right,
to help build their mental resilience.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
It would.
It would really send the message that dad's mental health matters just as much.
Absolutely. And it would normalize these conversations from the very beginning.
So we've talked about how societal pressures often kind of silence dads who are struggling.
Yeah.
How do we change that?
Well, I think we have to challenge those stereotypes head on.
Okay.
It starts by acknowledging that it's okay for men to struggle,
right,
to feel overwhelmed, to ask for help.
I mean, we really need to redefine what it means to be a strong man.
Exactly. True strength isn't about suppressing your emotions.
Right.
It's about having the courage to be vulnerable, to admit when you need support.
Yeah.
And that means creating a culture where men feel safe doing so.
It's about changing the narrative.
It really is. And that starts with having these open conversations.
Yeah.
We need to talk about this more, in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces. The more we normalize these discussions, the less stigma there's going to be.
And it's not just about talking. It's about taking action.
100%. So, for example, workplaces can offer paternity leave policies that encourage dads to, take time off and be actively involved in those early weeks and months.
Right. And that sends such a powerful message.
It does.
That fatherhood is valued. It's not just something you squeeze in around, your real job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, on a broader societal level, we need to invest in resources and support systems for new parents.
Okay.
So, things like affordable childcare, accessible mental health services, community programs that connect families.
It really does take a village.
It truly does. And if we want to support the mental well-being of new fathers, we need to create a village that prioritizes mental health.
So it's not just about individual dads doing their part.
That's
It's
it.
about creating this supportive environment where they can thrive.
Exactly. And that's something that we can all contribute to.
So something that really stuck with me from both sources
Yeah.
was this idea of screening for PPD in dads.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we actually make that happen? Like in a practical sense,
Yeah.
who would be responsible for that? And
Yep.
are dads even open to being screened?
Those are all valid questions, and I think it requires this multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
First, we need to educate healthcare providers.
Okay.
They're often, the first point of contact for new parents.
Right.
So they need to be trained to recognize the signs of PPD in both moms and dads.
And ask the right questions.
Exactly. It's not enough to just ask, how are you feeling?
Right.
We need these specific screening tools
Okay.
that are designed to identify paternal PPD.
So it's about really equipping healthcare providers
Yes.
with the knowledge and resources they need
Exactly.
to have these sensitive conversations.
Absolutely. And it's also about, creating that safe space where dads feel comfortable opening up about their struggles without feeling judged.
Which goes back to those supportive environments.
Exactly. If we can foster that culture of openness and acceptance, dads are going to be more likely to seek help when they need it.
Right.
It's about removing that shame and stigma that's often associated with mental health.
And empowering dads to advocate for themselves.
Exactly. It's not about waiting for someone else to step in and fix things.
Right.
It's about recognizing that their mental health is just as crucial as their physical health, and having the tools and the support to actually act on that.
So we've been focusing a lot on, individual actions and responsibilities.
Yeah.
But what about the bigger picture?
Okay.
Are there systemic factors
Absolutely.
that are contributing to this?
We can't just focus on individuals
Right.
without acknowledging that broader social context.
Right. Because honestly, a lot of these issues stem from
Yeah.
really deeply ingrained societal norms and expectations.
Absolutely. Traditional gender roles, for example.
Okay.
They often place the primary burden of childcare and emotional labor on mothers.
Which can leave dads feeling really excluded.
Right?
Or unsure of their role.
Exactly. And it can also create that pressure for them to be the primary breadwinner,
Right.
which adds, financial stress to the mix.
It's like the whole system is almost set up to undermine their well-being.
In many ways it is.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so crucial to challenge those norms
Right.
and strive for a more equitable society.
So it's not just about changing individual attitudes.
Right.
It's about dismantling these systems of inequality
Yeah.
that are perpetuating these issues.
Exactly. And that requires a collective effort.
Okay.
We need to advocate for family-friendly policies like paid parental leave for both parents,
Yes.
affordable childcare, flexible work arrangements.
Because let's face it, most families can't afford
Right.
for one parent to stay home full-time anymore.
Exactly. And even if they could, it often reinforces those traditional gender roles
Right.
that we're trying to move away from.
So it's about creating a society where both parents can actively raise their children.
Yes.
And contribute financially.
And where both parents are equally supported
Yeah.
in terms of their mental health.
That's definitely a world I want to live in.
Me too.
This deep dive into paternal PPD has really opened my eyes to
Yeah.
so many interconnected issues.
It's a complex topic,
It is.
but it definitely deserves our attention.
Absolutely. And it's clear we need this multifaceted approach that addresses, individual needs, societal norms, and systemic barriers.
I couldn't agree more.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
The prevalence of PPD in dads,
Yeah.
risk factors, symptoms,
Right.
the importance of early intervention, ways to support them, before and after the baby arrives,
Yep.
and even the need for broader societal change.
It's been a thorough and insightful conversation.
It has. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of it.
I hope so.
But there's one question that's still kind of lingering in my mind.
Okay, what's that?
Well, the scientific study really focused on first-time dads.
Right.
But what about fathers who are already experienced parents? Does their risk of PPD change with subsequent children?
That's a fascinating question. And it's one that our sources didn't specifically address.
Yeah.
It definitely warrants further exploration.
You would think having gone through it before might make you more prepared, but
Yeah.
each child brings new challenges and new dynamics.
Right. The added stressors of multiple children could potentially, increase that risk, even in dads who've been through it before.
So it's not a simple answer.
No, it's not.
There's still so much we don't know.
That's true, but that's also what makes this such an important area of research.
Right.
There's so much more to uncover about the mental health of fathers.
And the more we learn,
Yeah,
the better equipped we'll be to support them.
absolutely.
This conversation has really made me think about the dads in my own life.
Me too.
And I'm realizing that I may not have been as attentive to their needs as I could have been.
It's easy to fall into those traditional roles and assumptions.
It is, but now that I know better, I'm committed to doing better.
That's a great first step.
And it's not just about the dads I know personally.
Right.
It's about advocating for better support systems for all fathers.
I agree. We need to create a world where dads feel empowered to prioritize their mental health.
A world where they know they're not alone.
A world where they can thrive, not just survive.
Well said. This has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive.
I've enjoyed our discussion.
Me too. Our
Thanks.
listeners are going to get so much out of it. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what resources are actually available
Okay,
for dads who might be struggling.
that's a great next step.
So where can dads actually go if they think they might be experiencing this? Is there help out there?
Yeah, the good news is there are more resources than ever before.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Hmm.
What are some of the main ones?
Well, I always recommend starting with a healthcare professional.
Okay, so like their primary care doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. They can, assess the situation,
Mm-hmm.
offer some initial support,
Okay.
and then refer dads to specialists if needed.
Okay, that makes sense. What kind of specialists would that be?
Therapists and counselors who specialize in men's mental health
Okay.
are a great option.
Mm-hmm.
They're equipped to really understand the unique challenges that dads face.
And there are also support groups.
Yes.
Specifically for dads experiencing PPD.
Yeah, they could be so valuable
Okay.
for connecting with other men who are going through the same thing.
Yeah. That sense of community, I bet, is really powerful.
It is.
Knowing that you're not alone in this.
Yeah, it really makes a difference.
What about online resources?
Yeah.
Are there any good websites or apps out there?
Definitely Postpartum Men is a fantastic website.
Okay.
It has tons of information resources, personal stories from other dads.
And I bet there are online support groups too,
Oh, yeah,
like on Facebook or Reddit.
absolutely. And those can be especially helpful for dads who maybe feel a little bit more comfortable connecting anonymously online.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
It sounds like there really are a lot of options.
The key is really finding what works best for each individual.
Right, because what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
It's about finding the right fit and encouraging dads to be, proactive and seeking help.
Absolutely. The sooner they reach out, the sooner they can start on that road of
Nice.
recovery.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like we've learned so much.
too.
We've learned that PPD in dads is more common than a lot of people realize.
Right.
It has a biological basis.
Yeah.
And that there's, thankfully, a lot of resources out there for those who are struggling.
Absolutely.
We've also talked about the impact of societal expectations and, really the need to create a culture where men feel supported in seeking help.
For sure.
And I think we've highlighted that, we need more awareness,
Yeah.
more support systems,
Definitely.
and some real changes to address this important issue.
It's been a really powerful and much needed conversation.
It really has. To our listeners out there, if you're a new dad or if you know a new dad, please, let's keep talking about this.
Yes.
Let's break the silence. Let's offer support. And let's create a world where dads feel empowered to prioritize their mental health and thrive in their journey of fatherhood.
That's a wonderful sentiment.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Until then, take care.
Find related articles for our podcast episodes at Heliox Podcasts on Substack, helioxpodcast.substack.com. Join the conversation.